It's 8:15 Eastern Time, the only time zone not impacted by the shutdown of Stream East. That means it's time for C2C Live, brought to you by CampusToCanton.com. That's Matt Bruening. I'm Austin Nace. On a slightly late version of tonight's show. Give us a break. We're going to talk poll debacles, biggest pretenders so far this season, both from a player and a team perspective, and some bounce back candidates. All that and more right after the stinger. You guys don't even want to know what Matthew dared me to open the show with as our topic for tonight, but we didn't go there. We didn't go there. We are here talking college football, and yeah, we're brought to you guys by CampusToCanton.com. So like the video if you're here with us live, subscribe to the channel, and head on over to CampusToCanton.com while you're at it. Check out everything we got over there: the articles, the rankings, the tools, the data, everything. And most of it can be had for as little as $2.99 a month. So go check that out, Matt. Yeah. You're wearing the glasses a lot now. Is this an age thing, or what's going on with all you guys?
I mean, that's kind of rude. I think you know. Jeez, I don't know that anybody knows how old I am or am not. I don't think I show my age. No, it's I don't know. I've just enjoyed wearing them as of late. More of I say a distinguished gentleman kind of thing, but you know what? That's fine. I got it.
Okay.
We'll just do a show like this.
Yeah, I would love it. Just close to the screen.
And so we're gonna do our top 25. Number 1. Yeah, it's not that bad.
That's not what I wrote. Shit. Okay. Yeah. All right. So Matt, I think I want to lead off with this story because I think it resonates with so many people in so many different ways, and it's this AP poll voter debacle, and I think. I don't know. I think it's just because of social media and how everything is like such a crisis now. When even the smallest thing happens and all that kind of crap, we can all just react immediately with whatever level of outrage we want. But it seems like this year and last year, the past couple of years, there's been such a big pushback on how much preseason rankings suck and how much even regular in-season rankings suck and how they aren't good and how, blah, 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 how insert your favorite team here always gets hosed no matter what. But then this week, I think something happened that I think it gave people who wanted to complain about this more ammunition to do so.
Yeah.
And there's a certain AP voter. I'm not going to mention her name or anything. She's already been blasted enough. As far as I know, all her social media and stuff is still private and all that stuff. From out west, who submitted her AP ballot that is based on what has happened on the field so far this year. I don't completely nonsensical. We'll go with that as kind of the word. For instance, Florida, I believe she had them at like 16 or 18.
18.
They lost to USF this weekend, and she bumped them up 2 spots.
Yeah.
Didn't bump you. USF was still unranked. There's a couple, I think, like the FSU Alabama thing. Like she still has Alabama significantly ahead of FSU. Like basically all the different permutations of like we already have evidence of this team beating this team this early in the season, and she has reacted the opposite of what you would have expected somebody to react to those happenings.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know exactly what we want to talk about here, Matt. I mean, I guess I do. How would you how do you feel about the ranking system? I guess we'll start with that question because maybe I'm going to ask you, how do you fix it? And you say it doesn't need fixed. But how do you feel about how the rankings currently work? Not counting like the playoff rankings, because that's a totally different like group of people and just, load of stuff there.
Yeah. Thank you, Brett. I think a lot of things have calmed me down, but sure, age could be one of those things for those
just
of you.
Because Felix hasn't been here lately.
That could also be it. I really don't know how to feel about the AP rankings because there's a part of me that thinks they really don't matter, but they also kind of do. I mean, realistically, and I want to say Tom Fornelli said something close to what I'm about to say on the Cover 3 podcast, where he talked about, there's still a lot. This is not a bad thing. There's casuals in every sport. Granted, the NFL is the biggest sport. You might be able to argue the world. I do think soccer overall is bigger around the world, but specifically in the United States, NFL's king will always be king. It's never going anywhere. there's still a lot of casuals in the NFL. Like, they know some things, and the fantasy football game has kind of helped them understand more. But I guarantee you, if you were to go to your typical NFL fan on the street, they could not tell you probably 10 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, there's a lot more casuals than you think, but it's because it's so big that you don't see that.
I mean, think about the Saints video that they did a couple years ago. Is it the Saints? Or no, it wasn't. I forget what team it was, but they did that thing where it was the Titans, I think, because they did it in Nashville.
Oh, the Titans, yeah, and they asked
all the street and they asked people like what this team was. And I know those people aren't football fans, but with how it permeates everything, like some of the answers that they got on that was pretty, funny and rightfully.
Case in point, I could use one of us on this show who has gotten so into just watching college football that, like, I don't pay as close attention to the NFL as I used to. And we talked about that on the draft coverage this year. I think it was DK Metcalf got traded to the Steelers, and I was talking about him on the Seahawks still because, like, I would like to say I'm more of a casual for the NFL, but I've kind of come to enjoy college football so much that I have taken a little bit of a step back to the NFL. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that from, like, a fan perspective. But that's also, those rankings drive the, if you want to say casual fans or the not hardcore, diehard college football fans to what they are supposed to be and who they should be watching every single week. So when you have people who, I do not want to say that she is not educated on college football. I don't know what it is that she's doing. I think it's fair to say that her rankings are not great, but there could be many reasons for that. I don't know. I did watch one video, and she said that she had, I believe she said it was like a very interesting process that she's not going to get into, which doesn't make any sense.
That means there's no process.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's why they brought you on to that show, to find out how you got to where you got in those rankings, and you don't want to discuss your process. I do think that they matter up until the part where we get to, obviously, the part where they start talking about, like, the college football playoffs, right? Like, that's the main thing when we get to that part, because that does matter for the casuals. Again, for those of us who just love the game of college football, I'll watching bowl games. I'll watch, Ohio versus Akron on a Tuesday night. I don't care. And I think there's a lot of people that are the same as me, but we have to be honest, more people who are just like, oh, I want to watch two of the best teams play on a Saturday night. Let me go pull up who's playing. Oh, this team has got a 4 next to their name. This team's got a 10. This must be a good game. So this is the game I'm going to watch, instead of maybe watching a Utah Arizona State game that's going to be on later that night that might actually end up being a much better game than, like, let's say I think Georgia Tennessee has a chance to be good this weekend, but like a Georgia Tennessee that could be on, Georgia could legit go out there and smash Tennessee this weekend, and it'd be like, that was not a good game. Or like a Utah Arizona State, or like a Baylor a Baylor SMU. That was a great game last weekend on the CW that probably nobody's watching because Baylor wasn't ranked. So I do think that those AP polls matter. Do you want me to answer the question on how to fix it, or do you want to give your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, go right into it. I didn't want to presume that you think it needs fixed in the first place.
I think they need to take away a lot of this voting from people who clearly just don't watch college football, or just because you write for a team or a newspaper on one team. And again, I'm taking this strictly from, I think it was, again, maybe it was Bud Elliott who said this. When you have all these beat writers around the country ranking teams, there's no way that they can be watching all these games and give a fair ranking of these teams, because that's their actual job, right? Like, you're at a game. Yeah. You're covering that team from the beginning of the day to almost in, because you got to be you're getting interviews, you're going to press conferences, player press conferences, coaching conferences. Then by the time you get home, like, sure, if you were at like the early morning window, you might catch the late night games, but you missed every other game in the early window and every game in the afternoon window. So how are you competently going out there and ranking these teams? You cannot do that. I think that not only should you not be beat writers, I don't know exactly how it is. I've been thinking a lot about it today. I think there should be some kind of test or something that allows you to get into doing that. And the way I would put it is not necessarily the Heisman, although I don't know. I know that's a pretty prestigious thing to get a vote for. But like some of these other votes for awards they have around the countries where, like, you have to prove why you should be voting for this award. I think they should do the same thing for the AP poll, because, again, it matters. Like, I think so many of these voters, just based on years and years, I mean, again, we've been around for 4 years, going into our 5th in a couple months now at this point. I guess technically, like, we were around behind the scenes. Yeah. But I mean, we were doing stuff like behind the scenes November, December. I always get that November time stuck in my head. But we're heading toward that point. Since then, we've had this stuff where like people just hold on to their priors so long. And we're going to give our top 25 today. And I'll just give one of them right now. Alabama is ranked extremely low for me. Why? Because they've not shown me any reason to believe that they're a good team this year. But people rank them super high every year because, oh, it's Alabama. It's a name we know. They're supposed to be good. So we're going to rank them up there. And it takes out teams like an Auburn, who's been really good this year, like a Missouri, who's been good this year, USF, who has actually probably got two of the best wins on the calendar this year, and they're not getting ranked by teams because people just don't know who USF is. You need to get people who actually care about the game of college football and care about getting this right to do those votes. So I don't know if it's some kind of test or something that goes in there. Maybe you have to apply to do it, and you do it for a couple years behind the scenes with no recognition. And if you do a good enough job, then you become an AP vote or something like that. Like show whoever's actually the one who's putting this consensus together. I assume it's the Associated Press, but putting this together like that you actually care about the game and that you care about doing it right. And I don't even care about the recognition part. Like I do kind of like that they are now releasing like whose polls are what. So I don't really love the crapping on everybody because then you don't know what's going on. And for all you know, again, she didn't seem to say there was a mistake, but there's been people who've come out and said, hey, like I made a mistake. I meant to put this team here, or I honestly completely forgot about this. That's cool. We're all human. We make mistakes, and I'm never going to blame somebody for that. But I just think that they should find people who truly actually care about the game of college football to do the rankings. You don't need thousands of people across the country. I think, honestly, you could get 100 to 200 people who truly care about the game to do it, and you'll get a much better ranking system than just, well, let's get people from all across the United States who might or might not actually be watching the games to rank these teams so we can get a quote-unquote country consensus when it's not actually that. It's just a bunch of people going, well, this team lost, so let me just bump them down too, but these teams are all undefeated, so let me just bump them up here when they don't deserve to be up there, and so on and so forth.
It does seem like the commitment to having, X amount of people across the country and the higher total seems, and I don't know this for a fact, so maybe, somebody could fact check me and tell me this is not correct. That it feels like a hearkening back to a different time where it was harder to find games on TV or find news as a whole on certain teams, especially if they weren't somewhat local. I mean, nowadays there's no excuse for anybody to not just be able to sit down with a YouTube TV subscription and put on 4 games at once, and on your phone have another game on somewhere else, and at least be generally aware. Plus, you can go on, ESPN.com and go through the scores for the day if you just need to catch up that way and see what happened if you didn't, don't have a chance to watch all the games in one day. I mean, we know how tough that is. That's why I'm pretty sure both of us record like a ton of games, and even if we watch a game, like I'll a lot of times, because my attention is divided, go back and kind of watch them again, at least in spots to check back in. So that does seem like something that's antiquated that maybe isn't necessarily needed anymore. I don't want to say like I'm zigging here while everybody else is zagging or anything. I do think some of the imperfection and almost like, I don't think in this instance it is, but like beauty in the eye of the beholder type stuff is kind of a little part of the charm of college football. And yes, we've corporatized the crap out of it. We're paying all these guys a ton of money now, with the TV deals and the money that's flowing through and all that kind of stuff. Like, okay, it's not amateur sports as it once was. And I'm not saying that I'm not old enough to like miss those days, but I don't think that those are, I'm not saying those are bad things or whatever. I'm not doing that, but I do think that there is some charm in, like, okay, because of how the schedule and the conferences work, like it's never gonna be a perfect system. And I do think we have to be at least somewhat okay to a certain level with that, because we just won't know. Now, maybe if they did every year, I think what would be cool, and you can't really do it for all the conferences, which is what does make it kind of tough, is for like college basketball, they do like the SEC Big Ten showdown or whatever. It's such a limited schedule that you probably can't do that, and that again is what makes it kind of difficult to do a lot of these comparisons. But I do think that more opportunities, especially in the non-conference, to get some of these bigger games, potentially cleans these things up. And again, I know in this particular instance that wouldn't have helped because she still wasn't like, we got those games, she still wasn't reacting, at least somewhat correctly to them. But I don't know that it needs to necessarily be fixed. I do think narrowing the pool, I do think some sort of test, not a bad idea. Not, you have to get 100% on it or something, but something just to make sure that you're checked in, clued into the sport, I think would be good. But yeah, I don't mind the different systems of ranking as long as they're internally consistent within themselves,
Well, I mean, I think that's what you would get anyways. And again, I guess my biggest thing is the way you put it is narrowing down the pool, because you're going to have people who go based off power rankings or this or that. Some people are just going to go based off their eye test or this. Like, I just think it's more about like having people who are not, and I'm not saying that she did or did not do this. And let's just say here, I know, again, they talked about today, there was like 5 people, all 5 of these guys, I think in Florida, who still had, I think Florida ranked over USF and like a bunch, like SMU ranked all the way up here, not like all kinds of other issues with this stuff. So it wasn't just her. There was a lot of issues brought up in this last AP poll, but everybody's going to rank differently. I don't think, like, sure, some people may all be looking and be like, this team deserves to be number 1, but like everybody's going to look at different criteria for that. I just think you need to narrow it down again. And the reason I say people who actually care about the game is like people who just want to see, I guess the best way for me to put it is see the sport thrive. Cause like I can use us, this company as an example. There's a lot of us behind the scenes who have completely different processes to get to where we are. And to get to how we look at prospects, players. I mean, we used to have, obviously, Nick doesn't get to join us as much on screen anymore, but still does a lot of stuff behind the scenes with the C2C winning edge. He looks at everything from an analytical standpoint. And there's sometimes he'll say to them, I completely disagree with them. And sometimes he's 100% right. And sometimes he's wrong, but he owns that because that's his process. And that's what he says. Like, look, like, I might be wrong here. This is how I view the game. And I think that you would get that from those people. I just want people who, and Brett said it in the chat, is a total grind. You're not wrong. I mean, I think they have to have that stuff submitted by like 5:00 in the morning, Sunday morning. And sometimes those games are wrapping up depending on your time, right? 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. But it's because you love the game, if that makes sense. And like, if you're really willing and committed to doing that, I think it matters. And I do think the one thing I should also say is, I believe this is true, and you guys, someone can correct me at some point wrong. They don't actually just typically rank the top 25. I think they have to rank like every school, or they go further down, and then it's the consensus top 25 that gives them that 25, if I'm remembering correctly. So, and I know CBS, I'm pretty sure CBS does like a whole 136 ranking. So obviously that's a grind to do at 1:00 in the morning on, Sunday mornings as you're trying to get ready for this stuff. But it's also something you can kind of do throughout the day if you're watching games consistently. And again, as Austin said, he's not wrong. It's hard for us to catch everything. I mean, Austin do the College Fantasy Tonight Show, and same thing. Like, there are times I've had 8 different games up. I got 2 TVs with the quad boxes up, but realistically, I'm getting full eyes on like maybe 2 of those games. Like,
while he's doing the show sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then I get yelled at for a while also watching shows and watching games and doing the shows. It's not easy to do, but like, I think just paying attention to the game and doing that stuff is always better than just like going in and looking at box scores and who won and lost, because there's things you could be missing. And I do like what you said as well about the antiquated process part, because you're right on that. And I didn't really think about that. Probably back in the day when they started this, you had to have the people on the West Coast voting because they were watching those West Coast games and not getting to see the games going on here or up in the Midwest or out on the East Coast. Because as you said, I remember growing up, they had like 2 games on a day, if that. And typically, like, Ohio State was one of them. You had like Bama coming on. Like, it was Texas here where I live. Texas was always on. So you did not get to see every single team play. So I think you can always kind of, Brett, and I don't disagree, Brett said in the chat, you can always improve. I think you can improve the process, make it better. It's never going to be perfect, but we're not asking for perfect. I think I'm just asking for it to be better than it is. I think it's very outdated.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, Matt, I mentioned this to you earlier today. I'm not prepared to do it this week. We should just drop our own top 25s on this show every single week moving forward.
I'll do mine.
Have a little graphic. Do you have a top 25?
I did. I was going to do the graphic, but I couldn't find a good one to really quickly do. So I have my top 25.
You do your top 25, and I'll crap on your top 25.
Perfect. Now? Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So I'll start with my number 1. For me, the best team in the country for the past 2 weeks has been Oregon. I know Ohio State was ranked higher to start the season. LSU has a better win, but I just think Oregon looks like the most complete team, so I put them at number 1. Ohio State comes in at 2 for me. I think they right now probably have the best win in the country over Texas. LSU coming in at 3 for me with that win over Clemson, still looking good to start off the season. I really struggled with this next kind of grouping on how to put them in this 4 through 7 category. So I ended up going with Miami at 4, Penn State at 5, Georgia at 6, and Oklahoma at 7. For me, I think all those are interchangeable. I actually wanted to put Oklahoma up there at 4 because I really love what they did at Michigan. Again, I think that game was not even as close as the score indicated.
No,
to me,
it
Oklahoma really kind of ran ran Michigan off the field. I think you could argue them being ahead of Miami. I still think for me the top 3 are pretty secure in however order you want to put them in: Oregon, Ohio State, and LSU. Then I started going into some teams that I felt like had one loss, but it was against a really tough opponent. So at 8, I have Texas. 9, I have Notre Dame. At 10, I have Florida State. 11, Illinois. This might be the big one right here. I have USF up here at 12. Again, I think they have 2 of the best wins in the country currently with what they've done so far, and they're going to get a chance to go up against Miami. So, I mean, you're looking at a chance of them to completely continue doing that. After that, I have South Carolina. I kind of struggled with where I wanted to put South Carolina. I think they deserve to be in the top 25. They have not looked great to start off the season, but I still think that they are a very good team. I then have Clemson after them, followed by Ole Miss. Again,
what number are we at?
Oh, I don't know. I have bubbles next to the thing, so I was trying to remember.
You didn't number them. Okay.
10, cool. 11, 12. So South Carolina's 13, Clemson 14. Okay. I have Ole Miss at 15. I actually struggled with this team who I have at 16, Utah. I think Utah's looked good. I think you could argue they deserve to be ranked. I agree. I
Above
don't
South Carolina, I think, based on season so far.
That's fair. I was kind of debating on where to put them. I put them here now because realistically, I don't think either one of their wins are massive, especially what we've seen out of UCLA. I think UCLA is in for a very, very rough season. That's probably their best win right now. At 17, I have Tennessee. 18, I have Texas A&M. 19, I have Texas Tech. I mean, look, Texas Tech, I put up 60-something on whoever they played last week, but I think they've looked very good the first 2 weeks of the season. Iowa State, I have here at 19. They probably could be higher as well with how they've looked. They beat Iowa this week, a tough game. Like, I'm not in love with this team, but they're finding ways to win. I think that they've got a decent defense. If that offense can improve a little, they could be a little bit scary. At 20, I have Missouri. At 21, I have Indiana. Nope, that's wrong. 22, I have Indiana. Sorry, 21, Missouri. 20 is Iowa State. At 23, I have Auburn. At 24, I have Baylor. I think what they did again, SMU, I felt like they were in the Auburn game for the most part. So I bumped them back into what would have been my top 25s. I would not have had them ranked last week. And at 25, I have Alabama. I mean, again, you should not have lost to an FSU team in week 1. And I get they put up 73 points on East, West, Northwest, Southern Alabama. But it is, whatever. So you can watch the games, Dynasty Coach. I know I just found out about that recently too. It's gotten me a lot of trouble during College Fantasy tonight because I just figured this out and I've been watching them during the shows. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, so, and again, I think you could argue Alabama being higher, but I think at the end of the day, if you really look at what that team is, I would find it very hard that I think they even make the playoffs this year. So those are my top 25 going into week 3.
There you go. And yeah, I don't have mine. So Brett says do them on College Fantasy tonight. Maybe there is a lot of prep that goes into that show.
Yeah.
That adding that on top may prove difficult to.
The only reason I would say it would be hard for us to do it that night is there's still a lot of games going on typically as we're recording. Like, we typically try to go live as those late night games are wrapping up. Then you have all the late night games. Like last week, I think we had like 7 or 8 games that hadn't even started yet as we were wrapping the show up. So like, it's hard to rank teams. I mean, sometimes those teams playing super late at night probably aren't going to be ranked anyways, but I'd still like to get like the whole day's worth of stuff to kind of look at.
Yeah. All right. Let's pivot off the polls here, Matt. And we'll hit you guys with some housekeeping. Like I already mentioned, like the video. If you're listening to this on a podcast feed somewhere, a 5-star rate and review helps us a lot. Just kind of boosts you up the boards. I don't know how or why or any of that kind of stuff, but if you guys could do that for us, whether it's Apple or Spotify or whatever else, I think that's where like 97% of our listeners come from. That would be awesome. It doesn't take you guys too long, hopefully, and It does really, really help us. Home field apparel code, guys, use that code campus to Canton. It gets you 15% off over there. I know I am finishing up some weight loss, and then I have a gift card burning a hole in my pocket there. So I'll be using that code. I know for sure. And then underdog promo, C2C, deposit match up to $250 over there. So, and if I didn't, I mean, we already mentioned it, campuscanton.com. Head on over to campuscanton.com. All right. Let's get into the pretenders, Matt. I think that could be our next topic here. We each picked a couple of players that we just think so far this season, based on how they've performed, or maybe more pretenders than guys that, like people think are performing well, but maybe the stats are lying or something like that, or things of that nature. And then team pretenders as well. I know Matt just gave his top 25 and maybe mentioned some of these schools, but we'll talk about some teams that we think are pretenders this time of the year as well. And then after that, we'll do some bounce back candidates real quick, Matt, and then we'll get out of here. I think it's funny. I think I have a pretender that you have as a bounce back. So that's
that's
what you were just laughing at.
Yeah, that's what I was just laughing at. Yeah, I'd like to see. Do you want to do one at a time, or you want me to give all three of mine?
Yeah, give all three of them, and you can chat about each of them however much you want or whatever. We'll interject as necessary and go from there.
I mean, I feel like my first one is if you're sitting there at bingo late at night and you get that free square. This is just a free square. I feel like I've been talking about this every single week. We're just going to keep beating this dead horse. It's Cade Klubnik. And I think that's been really proven over the past couple of weeks. And the reason I want to continue to drive this home, I don't know. They have a good team. They play again this week in Georgia Tech. If I'm remembering correctly, that's who they play.
They're only 3-point favorites, which is
yikes.
A little surprising to me. It's not. I would have thought closer to a touchdown. That line surprises me a little bit. I know they weren't great last week.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you can slow down Haynes King rushing at all, I feel like you can kind of neuter Georgia Tech right off the bat. I know it's a totally different discussion.
I think that's probably because of what happened with Troy. I mean, you would have expected, granted, Troy, I think we talked about it on College Fantasy Night. Like, yeah, Troy's got a really good G5 defense. They should not have been slowing down a P4 team, which, again, like, I'll give credit where it's due. Clemson was an incredible offense last year. We have not seen that at all this year. And I don't know, maybe that's just going to mean, maybe that's just Cade's got to take time to get back in the groove of things. Who knows? But I just want to drive home that I really think he's a pretender, because I still think he might struggle here at Georgia Tech. It is at Georgia Tech. We've seen Georgia Tech give teams like Clemson, Georgia trouble over the past couple of years, but then they get Syracuse, North Carolina, Duke later on down the schedule. I feel like those are games where all of a sudden Cade Klubnik's going to come back to life as like that guy's going to end up throwing for 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, probably a couple rushing touchdowns, 100 rushing yards, and everybody's going to be like, he's back. Guys, he's not. That he's pretending. That is him in those moments. He is. I really think that he is a pretender moving forward. I feel like kind of been out on him from the beginning, and just we did not have him as our QB1 in the class. In fact, I think a funny little corollary here with him, and kind of discussing him now based on when he came into college football, Cade Klubnik, I think, was one of our very first test cases on what we thought as a recruiting team and how much we believed in ourselves compared to letting some, I think the fair way to put it is, outside noise affect us. Because there was a lot of us here at the company who had Cade Klubnik even lower than 5 in our recruiting rankings at quarterback, that class. But we kind of kept getting told that, he looks so great in these camps and he's doing this and doing that. And we were all like, okay, well, we can't see that. And we trust these guys. And it's not a knock at them, because we get things wrong all the time. But some of us, myself included, because I think I had Cade Klubnik my QB 7 or 8 in that class, and I bumped him up to 5. I was like, all right, well, we'll just bump him up to 5 and kind of meet these guys halfway to see what's going on here. And I feel like if we really would have listened to ourselves in those moments, we would have had him a little bit lower. So he's a pretender for me. This next one, I kind of went back and forth. I want to put him on there, but I'm really starting to be worried about him. And I really you made a trade for him recently. And if you want to tell the listeners after I'm done talking about him with the trade that you made, I think we kind of talked about it a couple weeks ago, but DJ Lagway. I'm really starting to worry that DJ Lagway is a pretender. Look, he has got the body, the skills, looks like a player who could be an NFL quarterback, and he makes those throws at times that you're just like, that's a one-of-one throw. Very few people in college football and NFL can make that throw, but it's kind of getting to a point where it is happening too far in between what he should be doing on a consistent basis. And I feel like we've talked about it over the past couple of weeks too. you keep looking at these, and again, I know it's not all about the stat lines, and I think you eloquently pointed out on Campus Life this week that there was a game last year where he, was like 15 of 21 for like maybe 190 yards and 3 touchdowns, but looked incredible in that game. The problem is he's thrown for over 300 once, over 400 once, and then everything else is like in the hundreds to like 150s. Sure, he's getting a couple touchdowns, but what made him so exciting in high school football too was the rushing ability. We have not seen any of that.
I don't know what's happened there. I don't know if they're specifically telling him not to, or if some of the injury stuff has made him unwilling or like a little worried about it, or like I don't know what the deal is with the running. Because I would have expected this season, based on high school lag weight, for him to run for 500 yards.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree with you. And then again, I don't know if it's, you would hope it wasn't the ankle injury he suffered last year, because we haven't heard anything about that in camp. Now maybe it's just Billy Napier. We've kind of talked about this behind the scenes. I think maybe Colin brought it up on Campus Life. I can't remember. Someone mentioned recently, like obviously Anthony Richardson is a unicorn when it comes to like rushing upside, and Billy Napier never used him that way either. So maybe it's Napier. I don't know. But I do think that is hurting his game a little bit. And not even just that, we don't even see him really like run, like get flushed out of the pocket or do these like runs and throwing on the run, anything, get him out of the pocket, get him on the move, nothing. It's just like they're trying to turn him into this pocket passing quarterback, which I don't think he is. So I'm really starting to be concerned that he's a pretender. He actually just dropped. I updated they won't show up on the site until first thing tomorrow morning, but I was updating my quarterback rankings today, and I dropped him a fair amount of spots. Like I'm seriously starting to worry about DJ Lagway. And then my third one is Jackson Arnold. And again, I think this is more of honestly, I think Cade Klubnik is probably a fair way to put this. Like, the difference I will say is I think Jackson Arnold's looked somewhat good the past couple weeks, specifically more as a rusher than a passer, which also scares me because Auburn has these incredible weapons, and he's not doing a very good job passing the ball. Don't get caught up in what you've seen him do these past couple weeks as a rusher with Hugh Freeze, because he's going to start playing tougher competition, and I think that's going to kind of be the rubber meets the road kind of moment, and he's going to come back to earth. Don't buy into the Jackson Arnold is back hype because he's been good for a couple games for Auburn. I think he is a pretender as well.
Yeah, I don't know that I would call Jackson Arnold a pretender because, I guess statistically he's been okay this year. I don't know. Wasn't the guy that I think people have been clamoring for. So
people are hyping him up now. He's had 2 good games. All of a sudden, it's Hugh Freeze has fixed Jackson Arnold.
I in a league, I am ashamed to admit, it's a real deep league.
See what I tell you? We got Brett's in the chat right now. Arnold look good. I'm telling you, if he has a good game against, they got South Alabama, and then don't they play Oklahoma soon? If he has I think they do. I'm almost positive he has a going home to Oklahoma game in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now, and then Texas. So I was gonna say I think it's Georgia, but Georgia's 2 weeks after that. So it's a tough stretch.
Even somewhat better.
Oh no, it's Georgia first. Yes. Wait. Okay. The schedule thing puts the recent games at the bottom, but then starts the next game at the top. That's very weird. Okay, so yes,
that is weird.
Goes South Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Auburn is his next 4.
If I'm telling you, if he has I was trying to get it pulled up. So yeah, if he has a good game against 2 of those, people are gonna look at him and be like Jackson Arnold's fixed, especially if he's able to go in there and beat Oklahoma with as good as John Mateers looked. I don't think it'll happen, but
Matt went blind again with the no glasses. Here's a guy that I think people are going to get really excited for based on especially the stat line from last weekend. So far this season, what Deuce Robinson has done is, I think, a mirage. And I do think that over the past couple of years, it has been more to unlock with Deuce Robinson that for whatever reason USC was unwilling to do. I thought the way that the usage for him should have been as kind of a deep guy, kind of how Mike Evans was in college. And then once he got to the NFL, he's really worked as a route runner and gotten a lot better on some of the underneath stuff. But really at A&M, one of his big, his bread and butter was being able to win deep consistently, and Johnny Manziel finding him down there somewhere. And I think Robinson is similarly skilled, and Florida State is using him that way. So he's finding success doing some of these things, working deep and just using his speed and his size to win downfield. If you go watch the game from last weekend, his first touchdown is probably the easiest 80-yard touchdown that you're ever going to see a receiver pull down at the major college level. He lines up. The corner is playing off coverage. He just runs straight. The corner doesn't even attempt to put his hands on him, to jam him, to get any sort of contact to bump him off his route. And I don't know. I couldn't tell. I don't have the all-22 on this. I just was able to watch like a broadcast view. I can't tell if it's single high or if the safety's just so late getting over. He just runs, literally just snaps the ball and just runs straight downfield.
Yeah.
And it's just pitch and catch downfield. Nobody's even close to him. Safety takes a bad angle, even if he was rotating over, and he's gone for a touchdown. The second one, the catch was at least impressive, that one-handed catch in the end zone, but it was honestly a very similar on the opposite, lined up on the opposite boundary and just runs deep and isn't really touched or bumped off his route or anything. And I think people are going to see the big stats with him and get really, really excited. I still need to see some route running ability at his size. Yeah. Like I think it has to be there for him to move forward. So for right now, like I have bumped him up in my rankings, my C2C rankings, and like slightly in my Debbie rankings, because it's nice to see that he can, win deep and do these things. But we need to see some bigger boy performances, I think, out of him. Austin Simmons, I think, especially because of week one, has some empty stats to look at. I mean, he threw for like 300 and something yards, I think, week one. Against Georgia State. 341 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he had those 2 interceptions in there. And then last week against Kentucky, like I know Kentucky can be stingy at times, but this year's Kentucky like struggled against Toledo the week before. 54% completion percentage last week, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. If you watch that game, like the accuracy was not there. I thought the timing looked a little bit off. There still were a couple of decent throws in there, and it's still like pretty early in his time as a starter, so I'm not gonna kill the guy, but I don't think that I'm thinking positively of his performances so far this year. And as somebody who was skeptical of him coming into the year, I'm just interested to see where this goes over the next couple of weeks, because Ole Miss, I mean, they're in the SEC there, and the schedule is not going to get easier. LSU, Georgia, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Florida still on the docket for this year. So that's going to be interesting. And then the other one for me is Aiden Childs. And I think people are going to see the big statistical performance from this past weekend and get kind of excited about it. And granted, like, I don't even know if he would have put up the big statistical performance last year. So that in itself is an improvement. But I'm still just not really seeing like any sort of really impressive, like, wow, I can't believe he made that type of throw. He's cut down on the dumb stuff, which is awesome, because if you remember correctly, last year, like it just like multiple times a game, you were like, why would you do that? Not smart. So far through 2 games against Western Michigan and Boston College, he hasn't done that, but I don't think the statistical performances have been great. What I will say about him is that the rushing stuff has been back to where I thought it should be or could be, because last year there really wasn't a lot of, and I am wondering if last year it was like we'll focus on the passing stuff, and then maybe we'll try to put the whole puzzle together. Because if you remember his true freshman year, they had those packages for him where he wasn't really throwing it a lot. It was more rushing. So I'm wondering if like that was freshman plan. Sophomore plan was to work as a passer. And then years 3 and 4, maybe we try to blend the two together. That seems, possible. And we have seen some more rushing out of him this year, which is encouraging, because I think he needs that. Like, I think where he is now, like he needs some of that rushing upside to iron out some of the other stuff that he's got going on. So he's a guy right now that I'm not buying the performances in terms of bumping him up my rankings.
Yeah, we're going to disagree on that one, but we can talk about that when the bounce back.
Rose-colored glasses for you on Aiden Childs. I know. And friend of the show,
These
Aiden Childs.
are very clear-looking glasses, by the way. I don't know what you're talking about.
I think you just have red lights on in the background that he says Nick Marsh is a dog too. Nick Marsh has been awesome this year, by the way.
Nick Marsh has been,
he flashed a couple of times last year, and I was like, I was totally wrong. This dude's awesome. But in the back of my head, I was like, maybe he's not that great. There were just a couple of splash plays, but he's been awesome this year. I think he's going to be very, very good moving forward. So
So for my team pretenders, I'm going to kind of jump on what you just talked about with Austin Simmons. That is part of the reason why I think Ole Miss is a team pretender. I do not think that they are a team that will be competing for possibly like the SEC or even obviously making it to the playoffs and a national championship. Some of that I think just comes down to Lane Kiffin too. Like Kiffin, just like I think he's a great coach for college football because of his personality and everything, but he like just doesn't seem to be able to put it all together. They do have a somewhat tough schedule down the road. LSU, Georgia, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Florida all on their schedule. I mean, they obviously miss, like Alabama, Texas, which are two big ones, but still get a couple of the big dogs there, which I think that they're going to lose. But I think having Austin Simmons, who has looked the way that he has again, you just mentioned, Kentucky, not a good defense. They're 112th ranked pass defense, and they were able to get 2 picks on Austin. And I believe Austin Simmons did get hurt in that game. I actually have not been able to go back and finish watching that one. But where I will say, at least I am happy for Ole Miss, and specifically one player that I was in love with last year, Kewan Lacey. Kentucky still does have a very good rush defense. It's top 30, and Kewan Lacey put up almost 140 yards and rushing touchdowns on him. So
did you watch any of it?
I didn't. No, that's one I have not had a chance to watch yet. So I don't.
I watched a little today. I wasn't blown away. Like I was really excited to watch him because we liked him so much last year, and I think I'm still a little perplexed as to why it didn't work out at Missouri, because you can see he's come right in here and taken this job and been good. It was a lot of like taking what was there. Okay, I thought the two of the touchdowns were like on the goal line in week 1, and the third one, and I also watched a little bit of week 1. It was blocked so well that he just kind of jogged like the whole way down the field. I give me a couple more weeks of him before I'm excited. I have bumped him up my rankings a little bit as well, but mostly like the C2C stuff, not so much the Debbie side.
So Brett said that Seth McGowan impressed him from that game. So yeah, I'll be something I'm watching. I have that and the because I actually have not had a chance to fully watch the Boston College Michigan State game. I have both those on my docket to watch tomorrow, hopefully, while I'm waiting in Kid Carline.
I just don't think Seth McGowan should be playing college football.
That's fair. I don't disagree with you.
Based on the arrest and stuff that went down at Oklahoma, he should not be playing college football anymore. Sorry, you blew your chance on that, buddy.
Yeah. But back to Ole Miss. I mean, again, I just think that, and it's not necessarily that they don't have good players. I do think that they are a semi-good team, and I do think that if Austin Simmons is able to continue building, that maybe this team will be something next year. Could be an intriguing team, but this year I do think they're a pretender, which I also will put into the same thing with Michigan. This is actually not a shot at anybody on Michigan. You may think so because I'm an Ohio State fan. I actually think what they are building there is good. Austin and I do the recruiting show. It'll drop on Thursday morning, depending on when you're listening, as we talked about what Savion Hitter did this last weekend. Think he's going to be a great fit for that Michigan offense with Bryce Underwood. I think Michigan's probably at least a year away from actually competing again for the Big Ten and making the playoffs. So right now, what I saw in that Oklahoma game, and honestly, New Mexico kind of gave it to them. That was a game
they hung around longer than they should have.
Yeah, it was a game. I think that this Michigan team, like I said, I think the defense is not quite there, and we've got to give Underwood a year. I still think Underwood's been really good, but I think he's like a year away from really being a guy who can like carry an offense. We got to give him that time. So I think Michigan is a pretender. And then the last one for me is Tennessee. Go ahead.
I don't think I know how good. Like I don't know what to do with Michigan right now. Like, that's I don't know if they're good. They're good or bad. I will say I think they're, and this is what we talked about all off season. They're still too conservative.
Oh yeah,
and part of it's probably they're papering over the fact that the receiver room is embarrassing. Like it's like middle G5 level wide receiver room, which shouldn't happen at a school like Michigan. So I'm sure that's part of it, but like. They gotta unleash this offense at some point to kind of open up its full potential. And we were like, will they ever let Bryce Underwood do that? And yeah, he's a freshman. Like, okay, we've got some time here, but like, I'm not that encouraged by. And I thought like, yeah, okay, the raw numbers from this past game for him were not amazing. I actually thought he was fine.
Underwood? Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think he's been fine
throw or two, but like didn't mess anything up. Like for a freshman at Oklahoma, I thought he was pretty solid.
Oh, I mean, like, well, yeah. I was gonna be mean. I won't do it.
You're gonna be mean.
What? What was that? What? Underwood's look better than Cade? Yeah, he has looked better. Sorry. Someone's yelling that Cade Klubnik sucks and Underwood's look better than him. You're not wrong, but we're not saying that live on the show. That's not okay. So anyways, Tennessee is my other pretender, although they could prove me wrong this week with going up against Georgia, which I think isn't Tennessee at home. Am I remembering that correct? I can't remember. I think Georgia's going into Tennessee to play that game. Look, I get that they looked impressive in week 1. I'm not going to pretend like they didn't. I watched a lot of that Syracuse game. I guess kind of holding on to my priors a little bit on what Syracuse looked like last year, because Syracuse is not. They barely won last week. I can't remember who it was. It was a G5 bad like MAC team, was it not? Syracuse played last week.
Got some sprints in after the game.
UConn. They played UConn and won in overtime. And I get it. Sometimes you play tough games and it happens. Syracuse should be better than UConn.
Why are we besmirching UConn coming off a big victory the week before over Central Connecticut?
Good for them.
Come on, man.
And next week they're going to play East Western Connecticut, Mississippi University or something. I don't know. Anyways.
Now I actually want to look up and see who they play next week.
Colgate.
Oh, you're Delaware. You weren't that far off.
Okay, see there, yeah. I told you, that's pretty close. But I think this could be a massive game. Right now, for me, Tennessee are pretenders. Look, I get it. Joey, is it Joey Aguilar, right? I don't know why I have Joey McGuire stuck in my head. So for some reason, I have a name, Joey. I don't even know who Joey McGuire is. I'm going to have to look up who Joey McGuire is. It's going to be really bad. Watch this be something. Joey McGuire. Oh, yeah, it is a coach. Okay. At least it wasn't something really bad. I forgot where I was going. Oh, they played Eastern whatever something Tennessee last week. They destroyed them. East Tennessee State Buccaneers. That's who they played. Joey Aguilar has looked good, and I mentioned I thought that this Tennessee offense has looked a lot better with him there because he's much more accurate throwing that deep ball, kind of like Hendon Hooker was a couple years ago, which is where Milton and Nico really struggled in those times that they have been there. But I just don't think that Tennessee is going to be good enough on defense, where I actually think if you even go all the way back to that Hendon Hooker game, where again, I know Alabama and them were in that massive shootout. So Jalen Hyatt had like 200 plus receiving yards in that game, was just like wide open down the field every time. Tennessee's had a really good defense over the past couple of years, including last year. It was really good, which is what helped get them into the playoffs. I think that defense has taken a small step back, so I do not think that they're actually going to be good enough to compete for one of those SEC spots into the playoffs. So they are a pretender for me.
Here's all I'll say about tennis. All that I'll say about Tennessee. I think people are remembering Tennessee as they were really against Ohio State. I think clouds a lot of what people remember Tennessee as last year, but they struggled through SEC play. Like they started the season last year. And Matt, I don't know if you'd believe this or not. In the non-con last year, Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State for Tennessee, Nico had a higher ADOT and was completing a higher percent of his passes than Joey Aguilar through the first 2 games of the non-con this year for Tennessee. And then they got up to some teams that had a bit of a pulse.
Yeah.
And not to crap on NC State. Because was the NC State game last year the one where what's his name died, and then that's when they brought the freshman in, and it went from there. He didn't really die, Cedric Bailey, but he got.
Oh yeah. He got the concussion. Yeah,
that's Tennessee, right? I think. So that was a weird game overall.
I think so. Yeah.
But I people are forgetting how easily and how it's unstoppable offense. They're beating everybody deep, can't stop them. They're having so much success through the air, and then they got up against some of these better defenses, and it kind of fell apart. I'm not ready to crown Tennessee yet because it's largely the same receiving group as last year, the same coaching staff, the same system. The only thing that's really changed is the quarterback, and like I said, Nico was actually performing better to this point in the season than Joey Aguilar was comparatively, against a comparable schedule. So I'm with you on Tennessee. I think that it would not shock me if they go out and really struggle to move the ball this week. I don't think any of their running backs are studs. I think they've got a good stable. I think if Georgia can basically say, we're playing too deep, we're going to put basically the rest in the box. We bet you can't beat us deep, and we bet you can't run it. I think this could potentially be a really long day for Tennessee. And I don't think Georgia's going to put up 50 points or anything either. This game, has the potential to just be a real grind fest.
Can I just point out something I know is going to be like sacrilegious to any Tennessee fans here and that might be in the chat or watching or listening to this later?
Oh no!
I think if you put the team, if you put technically the opponents of who Nico has played at UCLA with the team around him and what Joey Aguilar has done so far, I actually think that their stats are fairly comparable, and I would not say that this has been an upgrade at all, despite what all the Tennessee fans seem to be saying. And I'm not even the biggest Nico fan.
What I will say on that is I think Tennessee was in a lose-lose situation there because you're either rewarding underperformance and giving into an individual who is demand, despite the fact that I think the performance had been like whelming. I don't want to say underwhelming, but it certainly hadn't been overwhelming. And so from that perspective, like I do not like, I get what Tennessee did and I don't necessarily blame them, but I don't think this is actually like an upgrade, but I get, like, because Tennessee fans will fire back at you and say that, and I think like that's warranted. Like you don't negotiate with terrorists to like a certain perspective, and I think I'm not calling Mr. Iyam Aliyev a terrorist, but it's the same notion.
I don't disagree with you, and I think we even talked about it on there. I think when that happened, I'm pretty sure I applauded Josh Heupel for doing what he did. I have no problem with what they did. I just think it's if you're willing to accept some truth, it's the copium, as the kids say, that the Tennessee fans are using right now to say Joey Aguilar is better.
Huffing it.
Because that's all I'm saying, and that's where again I think that they are pretenders. And I'm not saying that if Nico was there that they'd have a chance to beat Georgia and be a better team. I just don't think that it's the upgrade they are making it out to be. Is all I am saying. Again, I'm not saying it's that big of a downgrade either. Joey Aguilar has been impressive, and the one thing again I'll say that I said at the beginning of this segment. He's been really good throwing those balls down the field where Nico was missing those guys wide open. So, and
what I will say, I know like Prize Picks and I think Underdog sometimes will as well have interception props or interception plays, and it's usually half do they throw an interception or not? You should be putting the house on Joey Aguilar to throw an interception this week because that's just what he does, especially under pressure. And I can guarantee you, there's going to be a lot of pressure this weekend from that Georgia front seven that is going to give him some issues. My team pretenders, I only have two, and Tennessee was one of them. So we'll go past that. I think Miami is a little bit of a pretender to me right now, mostly because it's partially because they had a bye this week and partially because I think there's some important moving parts from last year. I don't know how good Notre Dame is yet. And so I don't know how much credit, like it's a good win. And I think like unless Notre Dame goes 7-5, it's going to be considered a strong win at the end of the season. But I don't know how good of a win it was. Kind of like how I feel about the Oklahoma win against Michigan right now. Like, I don't know how good of a win that was. We only have one other data point for both those teams. Notre Dame's offensive line looked atrocious. But is Miami's front seven just that good? Then they played Bethune-Cookman this week. So again, like we didn't get any more information there. I thought for as heralded, it's a young receiver room in terms of the guys that they're actually leaning on. Like CJ Daniels is 40 years old, but the rest of that room is really, really young and inexperienced. In tight spots, what goes on? I still think Cristobal, when the going gets tough, tightens up.
Yeah.
With a young squad at some of these spots that matter, and Carson Beck, who I think also when the going gets tough can tighten up at times. I don't know that I view them as like a legitimate contender. I mean, you have to rank them pretty highly this year based on what's occurred so far, but I just don't know, are they the 5th best team in the country or are they the 11th best team in the country? I don't know which one of those is closer to true. I think you could also put Penn State in that category a little bit, not for different reasons. Like they have not looked overwhelming against really bad teams, and they get Villanova again this week. So we also will not learn anything about them this week. I think they're still kind of figuring out their rotations in terms of who their best guys are at key skill positions, especially offensively. So I didn't put them on the list, but yeah, like Miami, Tennessee, and then to a degree like Penn State for a team that I think everybody thought like this is the favorite in the Big Ten. This is a national championship contender. This is kind of Franklin's year to kind of make that run. I don't see that team today, and maybe they're playing a little more conservatively because they haven't played anybody yet. There is a chance of that as well. But you can do that in style. Oregon's done that as well, and they're still just absolutely throttling teams. So
yeah,
you know,
yeah, I don't disagree with you, and I think with oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. With the Penn State part, like we'll really actually find out about them because they get Oregon in 2 weeks, I think, coming
I think
to
that's
them.
right. Yeah.
So that's going to be, it really sucks. I'm supposed to be on vacation that week of 9/20, and there's so many good games. That game, I think, is that we just talked about a game that's going to be on that weekend. Oh, the Jackson Arnold returning to Oklahoma. I'm going to have to get sick and postpone my trip to Florida, I think. That's probably the smart thing to do, I think.
I think it's a smart thing to do anytime you're scheduled to go to Florida, but that's just me.
Well, kids and Universal Studios and,
Oh, you guys going to Universal? Universal's pretty sweet. Have you guys been before?
Yeah, but before they did, they got that new Epic Universe thing where it's like 5 parks in one that they just, I think it just opened up this year. So we're taking them. My sons are really big into like Harry Potter and How to Train Your Dragon, that stuff. Those are the 2 big new worlds they opened up there. So we're going there. It's a little treat for them before we get to go to Old Trafford for me, which is, kind of getting them happy before I get to go do something. So, look, if you can't look on,
we both,
John, if you can't see it now, I'm sweating right now, brother. It's hot here in Texas. I'm sweating in the office.
All right, bounce back candidates, Matt.
Yes. Yeah, so I've got 3. I was actually thinking about changing Ryan Williams because I think he's been a little injured. I think he's going to be fine. But I did put Aiden Childs. And my main thing with that is I think that he is showing some growth. Where I will say that I definitely think I was wrong is I'm not quite seeing the NFL future there with him that I thought maybe he could get to coming out of high school. But the thing was, he was young for that class. Like, he was one of the younger quarterbacks. So, like, he was not as developed as some of the other quarterbacks as well, right? Like, he sat behind Malachi Nelson at Los Alamitos before he transferred into Downey, California. And then, like, a game into that junior season, he shattered his wrist on a rushing play where he got tackled. So he missed an entire year of development there as well. The only real year he played quarterback was his senior year in high school, where he played well enough specifically at the end of the year to really jump up the services again. We were high on him for a while. Services kind of got onto him as well. And we're like, hey, this guy's a good player. Then, as you mentioned, when he was at Oregon State, now sure, during practices and everything, I'm sure he was getting some of that. But a lot of the in-game stuff was just rushing. We did not see him do a ton of passing. Then last year we saw him do that. And what I want to take away from what we've seen so far this year is that, right? It's the turnovers. He is not throwing balls that you're just like, what are you doing? What did you even like see there that made you think that was a good decision?
It's you playing NCAA 20.
It is
526
with Sam Levitt.
None of those throws. Yeah.
Well, that's why I don't play anymore. Don't give up, Aiden Childs. Don't give up on your dreams like Matthew Bruening did. Look, I think that I'm sure Meth Labs will get a kick out of that. Or I forgot what is it
Montreal
Meth Labs,
Habs, but Meth Labs is way funnier because it's just missing the E.
Labs.
I say Meth Labs too. It's fine.
But I have seen some improvement. Now, where I will say is, like, I kind of hoped he would improve some of that arm strength. I don't think that's coming. Like, he still doesn't have, like, that strong of an arm. It's, I believe, below average as well. I don't think it's in that 53 to 55 range even. It's probably, like, I think 51 or 50. But what I have seen as well in some of these games is they're actually, Jonathan Smith is getting him 52. Okay, so it's right below average. Jonathan Smith is actually getting him out of the pocket, allowing him to use his legs a little bit more to also throw the ball. He had a couple really good throws in that first game, a couple that I saw in the overtime or the fourth quarter at overtime of the Boston College game. I have not had a chance to watch the whole game yet, but I think he is continuing to progress, and it was the rushing side of things that I don't think he's going to ever be like a top 12 quarterback for fantasy, but I could see him toward the end of the year approaching that like 30 to 36 range because of the rushing. So I do think he's a bounce back candidate because let's be honest, at the end of last year, he was pretty, I don't want to say like from a fantasy football perspective, dead to most people. Like they were like, is he even worth rostering at this point? And he was pretty buried in our rankings. I looked at mine today. I was the highest on him of our group, and I think I had him at 36. And I felt like even that, I was like, man, maybe I might be giving this guy a little bit too much credit. I think that he is a player who could bounce back the rest of the year. My other one is Sam Levitt, and this is really just based on last week's game.
It was one of horrible. The most confusingly bad performances. Yeah. I have no idea what happened or where it came from.
Here's where I'm worried I'll be 100% wrong on calling him a bounce back for the rest of the season. I went back and watched that game today. The offensive line is really bad. And I mean really bad. I went back after watching the Mississippi State game and seeing how easy it was for them to get after him, and specifically Sam Leavitt in that Arizona State offense. I don't know if you remember this. We talked a little bit about it on College Fantasy Tonight, week 1. They weren't really beating Northern Arizona a lot. We talked about the great Jordan Tyson catches. It was
closer than you would have thought, yeah.
Northern Arizona was getting after Sam Leavitt. I am worried that this offensive line is going to be a massive issue for them. It wasn't horrible last year, but I wonder how much of the Cam Scadaboo was just a man among boys in some moments there, where they could just hand the ball off to him and he was getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage, but still getting positive yards helped them. I am worried that this offensive line is going to be Leavitt's downfall this year. It has not looked good in 2 games. But we'll see. But I just think the talent's there. He had a great run in that game. He had a couple other really good plays. One was called back on a penalty. It was like a 40-yard throw. So, I mean, not that it would have helped. That would put him barely over 100 yards passing for the day. It was not a good game, but I do think he'll bounce back.
I think the lack of another receiving option has also been an issue. And we talked about, a lot of these guys were steamed up by, beat reporters and stuff in the offseason. I thought for sure, it was a stronger group than was there last year. But so far this year, it's been Jordan Tyson. If Jordan Tyson isn't catching it, then nobody else has done anything. And I think that's also concerning. They really need a reliable second option there. Kyson Brown at running back is probably out this week.
Well,
which is an issue, because I think they have a couple guys, but Udo is between the tackles, Banger, and then was it Rayshawn Luke, or do they have the other one?
No, it was oh god, now I can't remember. Raleek Brown, who was good.
Brown.
Raleek Brown was actually really, really good in that game.
They've got Kyson is kind of the marriage between the two of them, and so I think it makes them a lot more predictable offensively without him in there as well. Yeah, which I think is going to be an issue for them. So they're not ranked by the way anymore, and I think that's apt. I think that's
it's fair. I mean, like I said, I think they were 12th or 17th coming into that week. Again, they lost to a Mississippi State team that I don't know that they're the worst in the SEC, but I think they're in the argument to be the worst team in the SEC again. And we just talked about, they were not that good against Northern Arizona. I think they won 34-17. The game was closer than that. It was a couple big plays late that got them that win, to the 34. Mm-hmm. So I don't disagree with that. I still think that they'll, and I hope, again, because I'm just a big fan of Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State. I almost wore my Fear the Fork shirt today just because of that. I really hope they'll turn it around. They were my pick to win the Big 12, but they're just, let's be honest, they weren't that good to start off the season last year. It was that end of the year run that got them into the playoffs and then doing what they did. I don't know that happens this year, because my thing is, which I know is what you call, to me, from everything I've seen so far, Utah is by far the best team in the Big 12. And I don't think it's even a conversation at this point. I think that they'll probably be the team that kind of runs away with that conference currently. And they do get Arizona State coming in to Utah, I believe. So that will be a tough game for Arizona State to go and win.
Yeah, that Utah team, I think, is going to be a wagon this season. Just a hunch.
I mean,
they're just wrecking teams right now, and they're big and dangerous in the places that matter, O-line and D-line, and they've got a fun quarterback. So
can I just? Oh, that's what I was about to say. That's the one thing I really don't want us to not talk about how good Devin Dampierre has been, because that was a big concern. And we don't have to do it today. We could do it, maybe College Fantasy Tonight if he has another big game this week. They're playing Wyoming, so they should win. They are going to Laramie, so that is a tough place to go and win. But still, Devin Dampierre has been amazing. Multiple rushing touchdowns on the year. I know he had 2 on Saturday. Again, I know it was against Cal Poly, but still, he's looked good in 2 games against UCLA.
He completed 80% of his passes against UCLA.
I'm pretty sure he did the same thing against Cal Poly. Let me pull his. I had it
74%. Yeah.
Okay. I mean 192 yards, 3 touchdowns. Added, I believe it was 70 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. I know. I remember specifically in the offseason, me and Mike Valerie had this conversation. It was like, if he even takes a small step back, is it going to matter? And I was on the train of yes, I think he's going to be good. I think you guys will be really surprised at where he's sitting in my quarterback rankings right now. I'm becoming a bigger and bigger fan of Devin Dampierre, and I'm excited if Utah keeps doing what they're doing right now. He will be a guy that everybody is talking about at the end of the year. So I'm excited for him, and I'm excited for Utah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's show. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We really wanted to get him on to hear his thoughts on the AP poll. And of course, his dog is sitting beside him here. So we'll get them rescheduled. Make sure you're checking out everything.
Can we tease something really quick? Is it next week we might have a special guest with us? Right? We talked about this.
Like a third person on the show?
Yeah. That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Allegedly. We'll see if...
Tune in.
Yeah.
Should be fun.
Yeah.
Great guy.
I know people are tired of this listening to us too. So yeah.
Many people are saying this. Great guy. Great guy. Great guy. You know, great human being in general.
I don't want to overstate it. He's all right. I'll hold that opinion back until we actually get him on the show.
Look, he's a person. All right, people, tune in. He's a person. He has feelings.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Good night and good luck.